Howdy folks, Doc here from Last Best Tool, and I wanted to give you a cool tool alert. Even though I've only had this thing a little over a week, I think it's important to get information out there in case you're thinking about buying a light, because I really like this thing, and I'll compare it to a couple of my others and go over some of the features that I think make this not only an especially good light, but an especially good deal. But first, I forgot to mention something in a previous video. When I did my Snap-on unboxing, I picked up these glasses, and I had talked about the frames being different than other Snap-ons that I have. And these particular frames don't curve around the ear. And I mentioned helmets and a few other things. Since I use clear glasses for a lot of uses, and also yellow tinted glasses. And one of the biggest things I forgot to mention is lately, if I'm using earbuds, the wraparound glasses really get in the way. They tend to knock my earbuds out. Whereas these, I can slide right over the tops of them or around them without interfering. And in the off chance I'm wearing a mask with it, now I've got a mask wrapped around my ear with an earbud. Why would I do that? Because I'm often listening to podcasts and things when I'm out and about. And then I can put this over the top without it knocking the earbud out or conflicting with the mask. And in fact, these things here, because of the way they fit, they allow the mask to be taken on and off quite easily. And if you do shop work, carpentry, etc., and you're using other kinds of masks, these can just sit up high on your head without catching on anything. And if these little blips right here that kind of bend out, which are more for guiding it around your head and your ears, not catching on things, if those really are a problem, since there's no retention on that little part, you can snip those off if it creates a problem. But otherwise, darn fine glasses for like 16 bucks on Snap-on. So if you use earbuds or whatever these things are, the wireless ear things, or even non-wired, anything in your ear, and masks, then this is actually a really good solution for dealing with glasses. But anyway, on to what I'm going to talk about here, and that is this Klein light. This Klein light actually is both a personal light for a lot of different uses, but it's also a great shop light. The general features are, okay, first of all, you're dealing with basically two speeds on this thing. Full speed is about 460 lumens, which is plenty for an awful lot of stuff. It's area lighting, it's not spotlighting. And then the second speed, lower speed, is about 175 lumens. On full speed, you get a reported 9 hours. I haven't tested that yet, but I did use it quite a bit, and I didn't notice a big drop in the battery, which is indicated right here. You can see that. It's basically in quarters. So 100%, 75, 50, and then less than 25%. Every time you touch the thing, the on-off button, which is shrouded up at the top here, you do get a quick indicator of the battery life. And then anyway, you get about 16 hours supposedly at the low speed, 175 lumens. This thing is pretty durable. It's supposedly looks pretty durable. Supposedly 6-foot drop rated onto cement. I guess I can kind of believe that unless you hit it just right somewhere, but I don't see a real weak point. And it's got an IP54 rating, and that just is the ingress protection. The first number 5 is a dust protection, so it's supposedly got pretty good dust protection, and I assume this is the only real weak spot, is this rubber cover that allows maybe some ingress into the USB workings. And then the 5 of the 54, or the IP54, is basically splashing water on it. Supposedly doesn't hurt it. You can't immerse it or anything else. And in fact, IP54 is a pretty common electrical box standard. So this will be as good as the electrical boxes. But when you take out personal lights, they end up getting used for all kinds of different things. but it's certainly way more than Milwaukee's. And so anyway, what else does it do? It's got 360-degree rotation on its stand. Its stand has a carabiner and a magnet and 3 different nail hooks, which just basically give you a little bit of a slot to help keep it from falling off a nail. One thing I did notice right away is I was trying to use this in a kind of a as a spotlight for some video work, and I thought, why isn't there a tripod mount on it? That's what I needed, because I have tripod arms that I'd love to just screw this thing onto. Instead, what I did is I kind of worked it through another piece of metal that I could attach to the tripod, but that would be a very easy way to add one more feature to this thing. And tripod mounts are getting pretty common on things. Milwaukee actually has one. Let me see if I've got that handy. I don't know if I do. Probably not prepared. Somewhere around here I've got a Milwaukee with a tripod mount on it. And Milwaukee actually makes some tripod mounts, some things that allow you to kind of connect stuff up to your tripod between different tools. So it's like a separate mount. Oh, I know one thing. How about this? Now that I think about it, here's an example. Look at that. So this is the Milwaukee Cobalt bit set, or drill bit sets, and I really like these things. And check it out. What they're using is a tripod mount here, actually, to mount something else, you know, like to hold it on your belt or whatever. But you can also attach this to a magnet. They have tripod mount magnets, so you can stick it to things. So it seems like it would be nice if you had a little mount. You can just, you know, 1/4 20 screw. I thought about trying to drill one into this, but I don't know what's inside it. This is interesting. This shiny part right here, it almost looks like it have infrared, like an infrared window on something, but I don't know. They spent a little bit of time polishing that up, and I'm not sure why. Anyway, the carabiner is actually pretty good as far as tool carabiners go. A lot of times the carabiners are not that useful. They look useful, but it isn't the gate length that's important. It's the opening size here and whether or not you can get this, get something in here. So here's an example. This snap-on screwdriver, I can get it in there and out. So you can see how it just snaps in. But this larger one, once it's in, I've got to play around. Takes a little bit of effort, but I still was able to. So that's a pretty good chunk of material that I can squeeze through there, and then it still has enough of an opening at the top that I can actually complete the gate closure. Now, something kind of funny I noticed, this has a hook here. If I open this up, you can see there's a little bit of a hook, and that little bit of a hook is designed to capture the gate, and there's a little notch in there. And what that's for is, in actual carabiners, when you really use one, the full strength of the carabiner is only achieved when the gate is closed. If the gate is open, it has a significantly reduced strength. So the way the gate closes and how secure that is actually important in achieving the overall strength of the carabiner. But, you know, this is, I don't know, a piece of nylon or something, so I find it interesting. Are you really going to be yanking on this thing so hard that the actual integrity of this structure here, which is pretty strong, requires a hook? Are you going to be hanging off of this thing? Anyway, just an observation. I'm glad they did that, and it's nice and streamlined. However, I've moved away from hooks on a lot of carabiners, and the reason is, let me grab one here. Grab a couple of carabiners to show you. Should have had these out, sorry about that. Okay, here's a couple of them. These hooks catch on things when you're, if I tried to use this on fabric or a small cord or something like that, those hooks can catch. So a lot of the carabiners now use a different system like this, where it's actually smooth, very smooth all the way down, and then they've just kind of reversed it. So on this one, you can see there's an enlarged portion at the bottom that is undetectable from the side here. And then when that snaps shut, you get the full strength of the carabiner, but you also get the smooth surface here. There's another one, very smooth. So this can be clipped on and off of fabric, belts, pockets, whatever you want, quite easily. So this one, if I hooked it onto, say, a pants pocket, it might catch, when you have to fiddle with it to get it off. So it'd be nice if they smoothed that out. It's not a huge deal. You're not using these for rock climbing, but any new carabiner design really should get rid of that hook, unless there's some other reason for having that hook. So on to the rest of this. The base does have a magnet. We'll be testing those in just a moment. It seems like a decent magnet at first, and it's sealed nicely. This is a snap-on kind of personal work light. It has a magnet here, but I've had to put electrician's tape over it because it actually had a little gap around it that would just collect with any ferrous material. So it was just getting clogged up with all kinds of stuff, and it was hard to clean off. So I might throw something on this just to make it a little bit easier to get metal particles out. If I'm working around a drill press or something, and all kinds of little shavings get stuck in there. It's also a little bit easier to wipe off. Same with this Milwaukee, but I haven't really run into it because that's so smooth. They really did a good job embedding those magnets. But anyway, magnets work great. So because of this 360 here and this 270 degree rotation here, there are all kinds of different mounting directions. And a lot of them, like these Milwaukees here, there's my total. I've got basically 90 degrees here, and then I can set it at different angles. But let's say I want to point it down. I might actually have to, prop it up against something, balance it to try to get it to stay. This one does have a magnet, but it doesn't really, if I'm using any large battery here, the ability for that magnet to hold is pretty questionable. It's just thinking about it. And then this is the M18 version. Once you get to an 18-volt battery, there's no point in even thinking about a magnet unless you want a great big one. And if you do, it's going to stick to everything. You're going to have your wad of tools stuck to your flashlight. And if I use a smaller battery, this does actually hang on things, but fragile. Anyway, this is about 39 bucks, 40 bucks, compared to, I think this one retailed for like 70, and the new snap-on light, as I just saw, was like 145. Couple other things. This is the charging bay. If I plug in a USB tester here and turn it on, which I noticed you had to turn it on in order to get the USB port to work. Now, if I leave this connected with the light off, I notice this thing shuts off. That means it's not actually detecting voltage through here. It's kind of I don't know how exactly this is working, but if I connect another tool to it of some sort, this is a BioLight right here. It's actually another personal light I've got that also doubles as a charger. One of the things that's important, I think, is to have some ability to compare. I use this BioLight. It's kind of nice. It's a real simple design, not super durable, but ultra lightweight. You can see the battery's about charged, but now it fired up, and now you can see that it stays on. So this little tester isn't drawing enough. I'm getting about 5 volts, 4.97 there. On draw, this is 5.14 is what the max is coming out of this. That's plenty good. And one of the things I thought would be kind of funny is how come maybe Klein, you need to address this. If you solve this, you know, you'll be the best company in the world. Why can't I take the power out of it and plug this into it and charge it by itself? There. So it should be charging, right? I can turn it on. It doesn't like that. It shuts itself off right away. That's kind of too bad that I can't just make it charge itself. This thing would last forever then. I'd always have power. When it starts running low on the battery indicator, I'll just pull out the cable and plug it into itself. And there we go. Of course I'm kidding. The shrouded light button here is pretty standard for things. What you got is you have full speed. We have to reset it after I've played around with it. There we go. So there are my two speeds. You have to toggle through those. So even if I leave it on for a little bit here, the next push button is a lower setting and then off. And why that's important to remember is because sometimes I might be using it and I'm in, you know, under a car or whatever, and I come out and I'm in daylight now, and I click it to shut it off, and all I did was turned it down to the next lower setting. And I know that I do that because I do that with other lights. The snap-on is the same way. You've got to go through all three. And then grab this one. This is my kind of under car light I often use, the Milwaukee, and it's, again, full, lower, and off. And because I have to do that second click, I've often just clicked it, I thought it was off, and then I see that it's still on, which is one of the reasons to use rechargeable batteries, because I tend to leave these things on accidentally, or you hand it to somebody and say shut that off, and then they shut it off by clicking once, and then you can't really tell if it's bright out that it's still on. These are single speeds. They're on or off. Makes life a little easier. Since most of the time all you need is full speed, high, on high. Anyway, so it doesn't actually have a memory either, so if I turn it on full and then I leave it here, when I turn it on again, I thought it had a memory. It doesn't. This is what a memory looks like, so this Milwaukee. So there's on, off, on, off. On, and I'll cycle to their spot, off, on, right back to the spot. And this is on and off exclusively, and then a separate button to toggle through it. That's great, unless you don't know that this is what does that. And you don't hit the wrong button, and I often do. Several Milwaukee tools, I hit the wrong button constantly. Some of their area lights, I've mentioned it when I did the Milwaukee inflator. I'm always shutting it off instead of starting it. Anyway, so a couple of things now to test. Let me move those out of the way. And that has to do with the magnet system. Now, these are using rare earth magnets. That's what about everything uses. They're neodymium. So they're incredibly strong for small magnets. And what happens with neodymium magnets is the strength, like all magnets, essentially diminishes rapidly with distance. So I can get this really close and nothing happens until it's almost touching it. But you see that little gap there, because this isn't flush. There, now it's flush. Just that little gap, if this is not perfectly flat, and this I think is a bit of a design flaw here. If this was just out a hair more, then it would be possible to get this flat easily. Instead, I want to push on it to make sure it's all the way on. Because if it's even bent just a little bit, it's on, but not by much. And the position here may not be, the magnetic strength may not be enough to flatten it. So it is possible to have it fall off. But when it's on solid, it's on solid. Just have to make sure that this is tilted. Or this, not pushing, not separating right here on this part. So let's test this. I'll put that one on. I'll put that one on. I'll put that one on. All of these are fairly strong. Good, nice, strong magnets. Plenty for holding still, but what happens if I give it a jerk? Obviously, they all pop off. What if I give it a bit of a slide? The Milwaukee, let me turn this around here. Try that again. So I'm going to start shaking this thing. Milwaukee was the first to go. The reason is, no matter how strong that is, this is a long lever arm with a very heavy metal head. And so this is very easy to tip over because it's one giant lever. The snap-on and the Klein here. That one lost the Klein. The snap-on's holding pretty well. Let's turn the snap-on this way. Uh-oh, lost both of those right there. Now the Klein. So overall, pretty dang strong. The Klein has no trouble rolling around. Now we'll go to a sharper edge here and see what happens. So here they are. Knocked them all off. I'm hitting a little strong there. Okay, so at some point, depending on rotation, depending on orientation, I guess, any one of these could win. I mean, actually, I shouldn't say any. The Milwaukee comes off, but the snap-on or the Klein, they seem to hold quite well. The snap-on requires the base to be locked down, but then this thing spins fairly freely through here. It's hard to do one hand, and it's almost impossible to do without knocking it off the metal, whereas this thing, so you're trying to bend this, you tend to flick it off. The Klein, the magnet is strong enough for you to orient it however you want. Whoops, can't see that, I bet. Okay, right there. And what happens if you just want to make little adjustments is sometimes you knock it off, drop it. So the Klein needs a strong magnet, but this part here and this part here really need to be able to be operated. Let me show you that again. This part here, rotating it, or rotating this, and also up and down. You have to calibrate that so it's not stronger than the magnetic pull on a nice flat surface, whereas the snap-on, if I try to adjust the angle, it just flips off. So I have to hold it somehow, or take it off and make the adjustment. Snap-on uses this push button on the top. I, for some reason, find that pretty inconvenient, and I don't know why, whereas I haven't located or noticed that too much with the Klein. I don't know, there's just something about it. On the back, it's got the standard micro USB charge, little flap that I find open quite often. Let's see, anything else with this? I did notice it does glow. I'm holding it against that Milwaukee light so you can see there is actually glowing there. Klein seems to like to put that on some of their products. I've got a flashlight with the same thing. It's great, I guess, if it goes out and you're looking for it and it's in the dark, but you have to have it on in order to charge it if it's dark, so I'm not sure the benefit. Looks cool, though. I like the orange. I like that better than the red. Just stands out a little bit more, especially for an area light. As far as the stand holding it in all positions, right here, without the magnet, it's pretty good. If I tilt it this way, whoops, let me turn it on so you can see where it's pointed here. So if I tilt it, it's how far can I go before I tip it over if I want to point down. But what's interesting is I can actually do this. I do get some shadowing from the magnetic area, but I have used it this way. As a light up against something small or over the edge if I don't want it to where could you see that? Anyway, if I want to hold it out over on the edge of something, I've had that happen total of once. I was using it on the edge of a desk, and I was trying to illuminate what was down inside a drawer. You know, I could try leaning it out other ways, but I just realized this actually does make a decent stand for smaller work, especially nice fine work. It is pretty bright close up, so the only thing that would make it maybe a little more usable is a lower lumen setting, because I do find this Milwaukee, that's the spot, that's the okay, so spot, this is bright area or bright flood, and then a lower one. And if I line both of these up on low speed, there's that one versus there's that one. It is a different flavor of light, you can tell, but just having a nice softer light makes it easier if you're trying to read something without it blinding you. You know, an electrical panel or a book, doesn't matter. But anyway, cool tool alert. I really like this thing. It's got a lot of features that obviously Klein has spent time working out, and I hope that it lasts. A lot of these batteries now, they seem to go forever as far as durability and charging. I'm impressed. But there's my cool tool alert. So if you are interested in another personal light area, spotlight, magnet light, workshop light, whatever, give the Klein a serious thought, because I've tried it with a bunch of different ones. For the price, for the build, for the features, I haven't found one that beats this yet. Anyway, Doc out.